So in this video, we are going to be discussing what is rent to serviced accommodation. Now, this is an absolutely incredible topic right now. It's a topic that is on fire because a lot of people are becoming pretty wealthy from using this strategy, and it's changing the face really of the hospitality industry in the UK. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what rent to service accommodation is. Okay, so rent to service accommodation, what is it and what is all the craze about? So just imagine this. Imagine being able to make thousands of pounds every single month through property, but not actually owning a property. How does that sound? Pretty good? Exactly. So that is the reason why the rent to service accommodation has been one of the fastest growing, well, in fact, the fastest growing property strategy in the UK. There's been some other factors. You've got these massive conglomerates like Airbnb, and their market share has just been going out of the roof. So that's really supported the growth of this rent to service accommodation industry as well. So what is rent to service accommodation? Rent to service accommodation is when you rent a property from an investor, from a landlord, and then what you do is you then put that property on platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, Verbal, and you rent that property out on a night per night basis. The difference between what you have to pay the investor or the landlord for rent and what you're able to generate on that property from these platforms is yours to keep. And I tell you now, it is a lot to keep. Oftentimes, people doing a rent to service accommodation actually end up earning more from the property than the landlord. So I hear you probably saying, hey, well, what's in it for the landlord? Why would they be doing this? Why don't they just do it themselves? But I'm not actually one that normally believes in this. Like knowledge is power. Obviously, the application of knowledge is power because someone can understand how to do service accommodation. But if they don't do it, then it's just going to be dead knowledge in their head. So you actually have to go out there and apply it. But the knowledge is power in terms of the landlords don't understand how to do this, right? So for them, it's, hey, there's this company coming in. They're going to guarantee my rent for the next 3 years. Or they said, no such thing as a guarantee, but the promise is every single month you're going to get paid. You're not dealing with a traditional tenant. You're not going to have any void period. So a void period is when someone moves out of the property and in between a new person moving into that property, landlord's not getting paid. So that's a void period. You're not going to get any of that. So consistently for the next 3 years, you're going to get paid month in, month out, no matter what. So it sounds like a pretty enticing proposition. So the landlords are happy. The caveat from the rent to service accommodation company is you, Mr. Landlord, has to allow me a clause in the contract allowing me to actually rent this property out. So it's called a sublet clause. So there are legal frameworks around this that you absolutely have to adhere by. So I don't want you all running away right now and say, hey, this sounds like a great idea. Let me go speak to a landlord I know, right? It's not that quite simple. There are processes and systems that you need to understand so you can actually do this profitably and correctly. But the industry itself is absolutely booming. Not just the rent to service accommodation industry, the service accommodation industry in itself is a booming industry. But the rent to service accommodation is specific because what you're doing is renting that property out from the landlord, and then you're going out there and you're able to add value to that property by generating more income on these platforms. Obviously, there comes work with that, which means you're managing guests, you're managing the cleaning team, you're managing the handyman, the maintenance team. It is a business. It's a service-based business, but you get out what you put in, and a lot of people are getting out a lot of money from it. So that's exactly what rent to service accommodation is where you're able to generate thousands of pounds every single month without actually owning a property. And if that's something that sounds good to you, I don't blame you, right? It is a good strategy. People are making money doing it. But in my humble and honest opinion, I feel the new wave of strategy, the even better strategy moving forward is going to be serviced accommodation management. Because a lot of landlords with the rent to service accommodation are now noticing, hang on, you're making all this money. Where's my cut? But apart from that, a lot of people are also going into this industry without the experience and they are not actually making as much money as what they are predicting because they haven't analyzed the area before. They don't know how to do the proper analysis. They don't know where traffic is coming from. If traffic is coming, they just know there's money to be made by putting properties on Airbnb. So now they've gone in, they've made all of these promises. They've not been able to do that, which means they've not then been able to actually pay the landlord's rent. So that's given a negative stigma to that. Now, with the service accommodation management, you're actually just managing the property as a service accommodation on behalf of the landlord. Now, you can see the difference. The landlord actually gets to make a lot of the profit from the uplift. So if they were making £1,000 a month before, now you're able to actually generate more income for them in that property, and then they just pay you a management fee for doing that. So a huge incentive for the landlord because they're going to make more money, but then also there are some incredible legislative benefits that come with that. And that in itself then becomes a lot more enticing for the landlords because there are tax breaks, all right? You know, they can actually pay less in tax. They're going to be exempt from certain legislations like Section 24 and this new EPC regulations that's coming in 2025. All of these things no longer apply to them because it's still their business. And they don't benefit from these legislations when they're doing rent to service accommodation because they've got a tenancy agreement with the rent to service accommodation provider. And once they've got that agreement signed, it becomes void. You know, this legislation no longer applies to them because although the property is being used as a service accommodation, they have a tenancy agreement signed. So that essentially is what rent to service accommodation is. And the other option, which I feel is going to completely transform the industry, is the service accommodation management, because right now landlords are suffering. They're selling the properties at an unprecedented rate, and they need a solution because the reality is they're not able to sell right now because, you know, the market is not moving. People are not buying. People are a little bit apprehensive right now. So they're stuck in a situation where they're not generating enough money, but at the same time, even though they want to sell, some of them also cannot sell. So having this solution to say, hey, well, look, I can actually come in and manage this property for you, not as a traditional rental, but as a service accommodation. You're going to make more money. You're going to save on taxes as well. And everyone is going to be happy. You just got to pay me my cut, right? And even with your cut, they're still making a lot more than what they would do on a traditional rental. So I hope that video has helped. If you've liked it, then absolutely just hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts. I know this could be controversial. There are so many people out there doing the rent to service accommodation strategy, and they might have a few things to say. If you're one of those, let me know what you think about what I've just said. And maybe you're one of those and you're thinking, Ibrahim, you are absolutely right. I've also started looking at the service accommodation model because I see the vision that you're talking about. If you haven't seen the vision, I do urge you to just take a breath, really think about it, and think about how you can scale a lot quicker. The people who I know who have the biggest portfolios in service accommodation are actually doing the management model over the rent to service accommodation model. But once again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and do not forget to subscribe so we can get this channel as big as possible and help as many people as possible access the information that they can use to go and start creating freedom for themselves. And don't forget to hit that bell button so you can get notified as soon as a new video comes out. And I will see you all on the other side.